Islam family, peace and love. I'm here with my brother, my mentor, brother Alton Smith Bey. And today, man, we just really want to just get into a demonstration on how did we fall? How did we go from being Moors, the great Moors, the golden Moors, to being commonly known today as Negro, blacks, and color? How does that affect us? What does that do to our identity? What has that done to our spirit? What has that done to even how we act towards one another? You know, a lot of things we will get into today. Let me take it away.
Islam. First, I want to rise and give all praise to Allah, the great God of the universe. I give honor to all the true divine prophets, namely Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, and to the most illustrious prophet of these days and times, the holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to all of the ancestors, known and unknown, and I extend those honors to all viewing this demonstration. Islam. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we just want to touch on some topics as a brother opened it up about how did we get in this position, this condition of our people really not understanding who they truly are and understanding the importance of proclaiming their nationality, which is mandatory, and unbeknownst to them, all other nations of the earth have this common understanding of their true identity. Whereas the Asiatics of America, who commonly in this modern era identify themselves as blacks and African Americans, Islam, they're suffering from an identity crisis. So we just want to lay out some measures on what is nationality and why were we branded with the marks of Negro, black, colored, etc. Islam. So more we make it simple. We're just gonna give a definition, and then we'll unfold what is nationality.
Yes, sir.
So, and we want to give it from everything. Again, man knows not from being told. So we want to give the recognized meanings, if you will. Yes, that's why we use law dictionaries, not because Moors don't just always use law dictionaries because we know everything. Yeah. It's because they're terms that we don't understand. The prophet instructed us. They said, if you who doubt whether my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law. So he instructed the Moors to go to those that know law. So this is why oftentimes Moors, you'll see us use law dictionaries, because sometimes a word may have a different meaning in a regular Webster's or Oxford dictionary as opposed to its legal meaning. Islam. So we'll give a demonstration on what is nationality and just put it in context as it relates to people. Islam, yeah, you can use the fourth, the third. It's pretty much gonna read the same. Glasses.
So, the legal definition of nationality is that quality or character which arises from the state of a person's belonging to a nation or state. In parentheses or in smaller letters, nationality determines the political status of the individual, especially with reference to allegiance, while domicile determines his civil status. Nationality arises either by birth or by naturalization. According to Savigny, nationality is also used as opposed to territoriality for the purpose of distinguishing the case of a nation having no national territory, e.g. the Jews.
Islam. And that just that reference when it says when it references Savigny, yes, that's coming from an international law perspective.
Yes, sir.
So we want to put that in context as well.
Yes, sir.
Because again, nationality is vitally important on the national level as well as international. Because again, international simply means among nations. Islam. So that's why the prophet said we must. And before we unfold the measure, can we do Act 6 more?
Yes, sir.
Can we do
sir.
Act 6? So
yes,
we're giving a definition of nationality and what nationality is, and we'll come back and unfold that.
Yes, sir. Definitely, so I'm gonna go right here with it.
Yes, sir.
Indeed. So it tells us, Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality. And we are teaching our people their nationality in their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865, during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa.
It's not. Yeah, that's weird. Yes, sir. All right.
So that's Acts 6.
It's not.
So this is not only, that is law. That is law for all Moorish Americans. That is law. You know, my brother taught me, you know, this is our charge. The prophet is pointing right to Acts 6 when he says this, you know. So you must proclaim your nationality. You must have, when we go by definition, a quality or character which arises from a fact of a person's belonging to a nation. You must have that quality of character. And this is what, you know, with us even having Noble Drew Ali being our prophet, he's returning us back to nobility, honor, integrity, those high ideals, those high virtues from a people that's been in such a lowly state for a long time now.
It's not. And we're going to, now, with you unfolding that and reading Acts 6, and what we want to do now is just break it down in the simple terms. So we got the definition of what is nationality, and we're going to deal with the essence of it. It says that quality or character. And what does it say more? And the fact is the fact.
Arises from the fact.
Arises from the fact of a what?
Person
belonging to a
nation.
Come on.
Or state.
To a nation. That's a fact. Right?
It's a fact.
All right. It's not. All right, so let's go with quality first. Watch what quality entails. That quality. Now this is coming out of Webster's New World Dictionary, second college edition. Yes, I like to use this one. Now watch what quality says more. And we only gonna give the definitions that contextually, the context of what we, you know, what the prophet demonstrated. So now watch this. It says the degree of excellence which a thing possesses. Excellence, superiority. So that's quality. So we're talking about quality. Some things are of less quality than others. Some things are of greater quality. But quality in its essence, its meaning, simply means the basic nature, character, kind, the degree of excellence which a thing possesses. So that's profound. That's profound.
The degree of excellence.
Right. So if our nationality is Moorish American, just by being a Moorish American, there's a degree of excellence, Islam, in being a Moor. So it's truly a blessing what the prophet demonstrated. All right. Just, and everybody else, the world over, knows who the Moors are. The achievements all throughout history, everyone knows what the Moors have done. But our people have been stripped of that nationality. See? So with that connection has been severed. Islam separated from the illustrious history of their forefathers. Islam. So this is what the branding of Negro black color did to the Moors in America. Islam. Not just in Asia, in Africa, but specifically in America. The Asiatics of America. More if we can do this just for the people, just give them context. Because we want to demonstrate what the prophet, we going off what the prophet left us. Can you read chapter 47, that last
yes, sir.
That last portion where he says, refers to the Moors. the Asiatics of America. This is the reason why.
Yes, sir.
Through sin and disobedience.
Yes, sir. So, it says, through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their father and mother and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing.
Islam.
Yes,
Yeah, so the profoundest, the Asiatics of America who are of Moorish descent. All right? So that's what we're going to lay out that importance why the prophet said we must, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality.
Yes, sir.
Because this is going to take you from one state, get you out of that we ain't demonstrate about the higher self and the lower self, but it's going to get us out of that lowly state, if you will. Islam,
Yes, sir.
of having that lack of knowledge of self and your heritage and your history. Proclaim your nationality, going to give all that back to you. Islam.
Islam.
So we want to give the definition of character. Now we unfold with quality. That quality and character. So character. Interesting. I'm on this one. It's several of them that have good context, but we just gonna go with these right here. Number 8 is moral strength, self-discipline, fortitude, etc. Number 9, reputation, good reputation. Islam. Number 11 is a statement about the behavior, qualities, etc. of a person. So that character, the Moors had a specific quality about them, and they had a specific character. That irregardless of how you looked, if you conducted yourself in a certain manner, it's considered Moorish.
Yes, sir.
The given is the olive skin tone, but it's your conduct.
Yes, sir.
See?
Indeed. And that's kind of like the thing too, when just currently, as currently constructed right now as a people, when we see one of us, we don't know what's in the head of that other Asiatic. But when the Prophet gave us back our nationality, he giving us back our flag, he giving us back our national hairdress, our Moorish fezzes, he's giving us back, our tribal names, our nationality. These things instill character into a people for them to act properly, justly, communally amongst one another.
Islam. Now we want to I want to just come back on that more. And before we start going into what the Marx did, so he said that quality and character, right? So we established that, right?
Yes, sir.
That other part more. Can you reread the part where it starts talking about the allegiance?
Yes, sir.
Allegiance and then the territoriality, if you will.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it says nationality determines the political status of the individual,
Got that part.
especially with reference to allegiance, while domicile determines his civil status. Nationality arises either by birth or by naturalization. According to Savigny, nationality is also used as opposed to territoriality for the purpose of distinguishing the case of a nation having no national territory, e.g. the Jews.
All right, because that's a modern, that was a modern event that took place, and we're not gonna we don't have to delve into that right now,
Yes,
but it's very pertinent
Yes, sir.
as it relates to Moorish Americans, who, and some people, we won't make this, just make it plain, and we're going to go into more people. Some people oftentimes when we speak of Moors, they just think Moor means black person,
Yes,
dark
sir.
skinned person. No, that's a false measure. Moor, the ancient terminology of Moor has several different meanings. You can go back to the hieroglyphs, if you will, and it'll tell you it's a priest of Anu,
Yes, sir.
right? One translation. Moor, you can take it back to ancient Babylon. It has another meaning as well. It's like in a lord. More when you go back to the ancient Canaanite, which predates the Hebrew, which oftentimes is understood as Phoenician language, Moors simply means Westerner. It means, in its truest sense, it means Westerner. So those, when in chapter 47, when the prophet is giving the metes and bounds of the vast estate and talking about the migration patterns that the Hamites and the Cushites took when the separation between Ham and Cush took place, those that went west, not that they were Moors prior to then, but they were recognized as Moors because they were Westerners.
Yes, sir.
It was a northwestern migration. Islam. So just saying that to say, I only touched on that because when we start talking about geographically speaking,
yes, sir.
Islam. So a lot of we have a lot of our native brethren who may identify as certain different tribes that they may not want to recognize themselves as Moors, but internationally and nationally they're still recognized as Moors because Moor simply means Western. And Moors, we have a status, a classification,
yes, sir,
as American Indians. They know that we're native. They know that Moors are recognized as native to America. So we will make that clear, and we'll go over that. We'll touch on that, the racial classifications, if you will. But that point, just want to bring that up, and how it said nationality determines the political status. This is where the crux of our people who identify as black and African American today. This is the crutch. Their political status. Your nationality determines your political status. It's not vice versa.
Right.
Your political status doesn't determine your nationality.
Yes, sir.
The more we want to demonstrate that. Can you demonstrate quickly for the people? Chapter 47, where the prophet demonstrates according to all the true and divine records,
yes, sir,
there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family.
Yes,
Islam.
sir.
Because we want to lay the groundwork that your nationality is imperative because that determines your political status. Politics is the science of government. That's the legal definition of what politics is. Politics is literally a science. How government is run, that's politics. So if your nationality determines your political status, this means how you're recognized by the government in which you live. And the people, we know if we live in this, we have a Republican form of government, Islam, recognized also as a democracy,
yes, sir,
right? How are you recognized? How does the citizenry recognize your constituents, your elected representatives? How are you recognized? By your nationality.
yes,
So if you don't have a proper nationality, you are given no consideration.
yes, sir.
And we're gonna touch on all this, but this is a very serious problem that our people have been suffering from to this day, and this is where they lack understanding. Islam.
Yes,
So can you read that more?
Yes, sir. Islam. It says, according to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the holy land of Canaan.
And
What your forefathers were, you are today, without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. These holy and divine laws are from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Islam. So the Prophet made it very clear. He made it very clear, right, that there's no one who can change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers.
No
so again, when we still dealing with nationality.
Yes, sir.
If your nationality determines your political status, who were your foremothers and who are your forefathers? How were they recognized?
Exactly.
Islam. So
Islam.
that's how we lead into why these marks had to get put on our people to separate them from that illustrious history.
Yes, sir.
Islam disenfranchised them from their birthright, the land, the soil that they were born on.
Yes, sir.
Islam.
Yes, sir.
We know that, and we'll touch on this. We'll go a little bit more in depth on the transatlantic slave trade. However, our statements are not to downplay the horrific events that took place during that era, the lives lost, the suffering, the torture, the mistreatment. We don't by no means want to downplay that, but our focus is to demonstrate and illustrate that it did not happen to the magnitude as Western academia has taught
Yes, sir.
and pushed Islam. So we know it It was an event. It was a real thing. But the magnitude, millions of Africans were not taken out of Africa and brought to America. It's not.
Yes, sir.
There was a slave trade that existed when the Europeans came to America. That if you look up the American slave trade as opposed to transatlantic slave trade, Islam, you're gonna find out who was really being enslaved. So, and this is who was here first, Islam. So we want to focus on that, aspect. And again, why the Marks, why they were so vital in the conspiracy to strip us of our birthrights and our inheritance was to boost the numbers pretty much. So you have this simultaneous event taking place, and we just want to touch on this more before we start getting to actually what is a birthright and inheritance in land, because it's going to lead us right into it.
Yes, sir.
It's not. So what the government sometimes they use is what eminent domain, the term is what it's called, how they just can take over land and property back during, let's just say 1500s or whatever, when whatever leading power, when they want to take over territory, they would just say it's right of the crown of Islam, whatever particular monarchy or whatever sovereign at that time, if you will, wanted to do what they wanted to do, eminent domain, or they would just claim it. Mm-hmm. So this land being heavily populated, it was a means of necessity for the Europeans to put marks on the Moors who were already in America, to disenfranchise them, to strip them of their humanity, Islam, because the purpose of the Moors science to America was for the upliftment of what? Fallen humanity. And we're going to focus on that, what that term fallen means. Yes, a lot of Moors don't really get when the prophet said who this was for. He said the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation, North America. Yes, sir. Fallen. We're in a fallen state, Islam. Yes, sir. But just saying that to say the event when they realized that this land was so populated. You got a slave trade going on, Islam. They come to America, they see it's heavily populated. They can't wipe everybody out, so they had to devise a plan to strip you of your humanity. And that was the goal of Negro, black, color. Because Prophet already said, according to all true and divine records, there is no Negro, black, or color family attached, Negro, black, or color race attached to the human family.
Yes, sir.
So again, no consideration. I can deem you a savage, Islam. So if I strip you of your humanity, I pretty much can do whatever I want. You know what I mean? Islam. So that was Islam in a legal context. Yes, Islam. So, and I'm Mo, I want you to come in.
Yes, sir.
But we're gonna just show how, again, not to downplay the events of that era, but we just want to say that it didn't happen to that magnitude. So the paper genocide that took place was to boost Negro populations and lessen so-called Indian, Moorish populations. Because we're going to touch on that as well, Mo, just to show how that term, how they came with that. They knew it was Moorish, but then they come with the term Indian. Islam. So your Indian populations got decreased supposedly by, of course, the warfare, slavery, and supposed extinction by disease. They supposed all got wiped out. When the reality is, they were marked as Negroes. See, that's what ended up happening. So you got an increase in Negro populations and a decrease in so-called native populations, Indian populations. This is the reality, that happened at a greater magnitude than any kidnapped Africans coming to America. We know that many went to South America, many went to the islands. But as far as coming to America, it was more of the paper genocide, the marking of Negro, black, color that stripped the native Moors, deeming them as Indians. So you have this rapid decline in so-called Indian populations and this massive influx of so-called Africans, but they're not deemed Africans, they're Negroes.
Yes, sir.
Islam?
Yes, sir.
So just want to tie that in as it relates to how the birthrights, the lands, the inheritance, how this was stripped from the Asiatics, the true possessors of the land. And then we go into the prophet, and he told you who the true possessors.
Yes, sir.
who the true possessors were. Islam. So this is why we just want to give the people an understanding of why the marks, the importance of nationality, what is nationality, why were our people, why were our ancestors branded as Negroes, blacks, and colors. Islam?
Islam.
All right.
Indeed. And then the Prophet also talked about, I know that all true American citizens are known by their descent nature.
Islam.
By descent nature. So when we get into understanding that, as far as we know today, all the Asiatics of America have English last names. And with that being said, none of us are from England. So these names were either given to us through slavery or through our native ancestors who took on English last names to assimilate into the new American culture, the new American way. You know what I mean? The importance of Moorish Americans not only having their nationality, but also their tribal names of El and Bey, because what does El and Bey denote to? Descent nature. I descend from the Els. I descend from the Beys. Who are the Els and the Beys? These were your Moors who was running things during the time of prior to 1492.
Islam. And Mo, let's touch on this is the first paragraph of the Prophet's divine warning.
Yes, sir.
Because we're gonna demonstrate what Prophet Noble Ali left us, and key terms that he used will unfold, and it'll open up some centers in the mental for our people who know some ain't quite right, but the Prophet used very specific terms, and when you really understand the terms that he used, you'll see what really happened.
Yes, sir.
So okay, it's not first paragraph of his divine warning for the nations. The Prophet says, the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I want to stop right there. And we're gonna demonstrate that more.
Yes, sir.
The one free national name. Now again, in layman's terms for our people to understand.
Yes, sir.
The one free national name for a citizen of America is simply American.
Yes, sir.
Islam. But you have America is a melting pot. It's made up of many different nationalities,
yes, sir.
Many different ethnic groups, if
yes,
you will.
Sir.
Islam. So, excuse me. The Europeans who came in, and Mo, can we do that? Let's lay that out too, because this is gonna really go into the definition of American. Islam. Right there, Mo, in that 1828 definition.
Oh yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. It's well.
So this is the American Dictionary of the English Language, Noah Webster 1828, which was the first version of the Webster Dictionary.
This gonna lay it out right here. Who's the true American? Because the Prophet gonna reference true American citizens throughout his divine warning.
So when it says American, it says a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. That's what an American is.
Now, ain't that something? Can you read that last portion where it says, but now?
Yes, sir.
It's telling you who it is. Now watch the contradictory measure within the definition of Americans. It's telling you who the Americans are, but then it's going to say, but now.
Applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America.
All right. So the prerequisite to be an American, the skin tone.
Copper-colored skin.
Right. Islam. And we know Prophet demonstrated us that our skin tone is olive. And we'll unfold that too. Why we olive. Islam.
Yes,
olive
sir.
ranges from the lightest yellow to the darkest dark. And for whatever reason, our people erroneously think that a so-called dark olive is a what? They call it a black olive.
Right.
When it's simply olive.
Just the olive.
Islam?
Islam.
That's Mo. It's something. All right. So, but now applies to descendants of Europeans born in America. All right. nationality, when you read that definition about nationality, it says something about nationality is determined by birth or naturalization. See, so this is where the naturalization piece come in as well. Yes, and again, as Morris, we're going to demonstrate this and just make this clear. Prophet Noble Drew Ali never demonstrated anything about nationalization or naturalization. Those are two processes. Nationalization, resources are nationalized. People are naturalized. Moorish Americans, we're neither. We proclaim. See, Prophet instructs us to proclaim our nationality. So we don't go through a naturalization process. We don't go through a nationalization process. This is a measure that was pushed by some Moors that came through the movement, and their understanding was the differentiation between those two terms, because one said that it was impressed upon him by the military. Mm-hmm. Prophet Noble Drew Ali never said nationalization or naturalization. No. He said proclaim.
Yes, sir.
Because you got nationality that you got, that's your inheritance, that's your birthright. Islam, yes, from your ancestors.
Yes, sir.
Right? So you don't have to go through a naturalization process if you're not foreign. But the reason we're saying all this, because Webster, in his understanding, said that America now applies to the descendants of who? Europeans born in America.
Yes, sir.
All right? So they're not natives to America. Everybody knows this. Yes, they know that they're not. They're European.
Exactly.
Islam. But that's what you call usurping. See? In international law, it's called usurpation. Where you're acting in somebody else's stead. Where you're taking their property.
Yes,
See,
sir.
This is what really went on.
Yes, sir.
Islam. A usurpation took place. You got the real American. Then you got some people came over who learned, studied the laws from the real Americans. Islam. Called themselves Americans. Islam. But they're European by descent. So again, this is not to speak ill of any ethnic group that has came here. We just got to explain what has happened.
Yes, sir. Truth is law.
Islam. Come on. Art is a law.
Yes, sir.
Islam. So we want to unfold this and just make it plain. So the free national name, the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. We have the national constitution for the United States of America, the one free national name for all ethnic groups who have gone through a naturalization process, and those who were born here is American. Ours is unique to our group because we're Moorish Americans.
Yes, sir.
Islam. You have Irish Americans, you have German Americans, you have Scottish Americans, you have you have Mexican Americans, yes, if you will, Islam. But at the end of it, you're an American because your allegiance is to
America,
the Free National Republic of America, Islam.
Yes, sir.
But only we'll get into that. Who ain't but two true native people to America,
yes,
the Mexican and Moorish Americans. Islam. So the one free national name being American, ours Moorish American. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables. Undesirable simply means unwanted.
Yes, sir.
Unwanted.
And that's how people have been feeling, you know what I'm saying? Before I came into this knowledge, the consensus from our people was we've never been careful about this government.
Yes, sir.
We've never felt like this government was for us.
Yes, sir.
This, that, and the third. We didn't like the flag. We didn't like the institutions.
Yes, sir.
We didn't like the national anthem. None of that.
Not knowing it's theirs. Not knowing it's theirs all the time. See? That's what the stripping did.
Yes, sir.
That Negro black color. See?
Yes, sir.
Islam. Now, so the government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin to the laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. So this is that profound word that the prophet used in this statement, and he uses it again throughout his warning. Delude. What does it mean to delude? You know, that's the root of the term delusional, but this is interesting. Delude. And this is going to speak to what we're talking about as it relates to enslavement, bondage. These are apprenticeships that the Europeans were putting the natives through. Okay, delude. To fool, as by false promises, wrong notions, etc. Mislead, deceive, trick, to elude or frustrate. Now, prophet said the marks that allude to slavery. So let's just make that plain.
Yes, sir.
delude to slavery.
Yes, sir.
Our people have this notion that we were all enslaved. No, we might need to get that globe. I might need to get that globe.
But even with that, even in that, American history taught us that the North was the free side and the South was where the enslavement was going on.
That's not. Yes, sir. So, delude to slavery. A mark was placed upon our people, which tricked them and deceived them into a condition known as slavery.
Yes, sir.
Islam. So, because, excuse me, by not being recognized as belonging to a nation, the Europeans set up a system whereas the Asiatics had no protection under the law by being deemed Negro black colored. Islam. So that was and again, we can't, what our ancestors went through, but just living under those conditions every day where you were literally, the harassment, and Prophet, we'll get deep into the warning where he used the term unmolested.
Yes, sir.
Islam. Our people were being molested. Not just in a sexual molestation. To molest simply means to hinder. That's what molest means. And we want to lay this out for the family, just to be clear, because people hear that term molest and they instinctively think it has something to do, with sexual molestation. To molest someone simply means to bother them. Our people were being bothered by these newcomers. So that's the Prophet, he uses the terms that he used. As a matter of fact, before I go any further, let's read where the Prophet said, before I even go to that, let's demonstrate where he used that term himself. So he says, I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah. This is the second paragraph of his divine warning. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind, their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There's but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privileges, not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. So I didn't want to jump the gun and start going to that measure without reading what the prophet had already unfolded. And he said, when we say that, when the prophet talks about that sacred obligation of American citizenship,
Islam.
He said that, and through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights by way of their citizenship. Your divine right. So not, again, our people have been, by not being taught civics and understanding nationality birthrights, we put civil rights before human rights.
Exactly.
And this is part of that Negro pride.
This is what Brother Malcolm X was talking before he transitioned.
You follow? Exactly. Civil. Everybody focus on civil rights. No, that's the next tier of law under your human rights, your humanity. Yes, so the Marx stripping our people of their humanity, they worry about civil rights, and they ain't understanding now you're not recognized as a people. And it is hard for one to fathom that, knowing that you're human, but this is in the eyes of the law. This is how detrimental those terms, those marks, our people being stripped of their nationality, these were the repercussions, the ramifications of being marked as Negro black color. Islam. So this is very profound. Prophet said, and through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. This is a profound measure right here, because we got so much, like I said, Prophet, he put so much within this. The reason he says can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government. See? Under the state. So you got to be recognized as a citizen of the state you live in. This ain't no federal measure. So see, and he'll get to the 14th, 15th Amendment. Those were federal demonstrations. See, that quasi-citizenship.
Yes, sir.
That's why he said that's a granted privilege. When you recognize by your true nationality through the state government, that's what he said, you can cast the free national ballot at the polls. Under the free national constitution of the state's government, the state with which you live, and not under a granted privilege. 14th Amendment ain't got to give you your citizenship. 15th Amendment ain't got to give you the right to vote. You always had that.
Yes, sir.
Islam? And we'll go into that. Justice Benjamin Curtis, in his dissenting opinion on the Dred Scott decision, Justice Benjamin Curtis and Justice McLean, they were the two dissenting opinions in that Dred Scott decision, and they let the cat out the bag. They let the cat out the bag. So
what they say,
Mo? We're gonna have to touch on it. We're gonna have to, because one of them, well, Benjamin Curtis, he let the cat out the bag, but then Justice McLean came right behind him and said that naturalization is only for foreigners. So what they're telling you, if all these slaves that's in the South, right, these people that's enslaved, if they ain't African, because if they was African, at some point they would have had to been naturalized. That's wrong. They knew they weren't from Africa. We all from Africa, you know. With that, from more perspective standpoint, we were on this side for the Great Earthquake.
Yes, sir.
So, but the notion that they bought, the only reason they're dark out-of-tone people in America was because the Spaniards, the French, the British, they bought Africans over Islam. But Justice McLean said no. He said naturalization is only for people of foreign birth.
Yeah.
So
I have my naturalization paper.
Right. I'm making a point to where, as it related to Dred Scott, he's basically saying all of these so-called African Americans in this country today, they were already here. He's saying it without saying it. That's why they need to go to, because they have native birth. That's my point.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'm saying it makes sense because I have mine.
Yeah.
Exactly, right. Because like I say, right, if you are from another country, you come in with a nationality, but once you get naturalized, you become an American. But you still, your descent nature is not changing. See, with us, Mo, we come from, you know what I mean? What are you trying to tell us?
Man, we've been here since before the Great Earthquake.
Come on, Mo.
You know what I mean? And the Moorish Americans and Mexicans of North America. You know, so our descent nature is from this land from an ancient perspective, then leading us back to, I would even say Africa, leading us back to a Nexum.
Islam.
The true and divine ancient name.
Right, the first true and divine name, Islam.
Yes, sir.
Islam. Yes, sir. So yeah, definitely want to touch on why the prophet, these terms that he used are so profound. So the Marks delude to slavery. So there were Asiatics who were enslaved. We know that.
Yes,
that's
sir.
a fact. There were people enslaved.
Right.
But there were far more who were free. But they were marked. And because they were marked, it would give you the perception that they were enslaved. Because the Dred Scott decision deemed 1857 what the Negro has no rights, that the white man is bound to respect. It's all right. We'll touch on that black and white as political status.
And he's looked at as 3/5 of a human being. But then also too, with the brother Henry Louis Gates, he is the head of African American Studies at the College of Harvard, and he said specifically only about 400,000 so-called Africans came to the America via slavery legally, you know what I mean, from 1619 to 1865. But understanding too, in 1865 they said Lincoln freed about 4 million.
4 million. It's not.
You feel me? So-called enslaved African Americans.
It's not. Yes, sir.
Huge fluctuation in numbers.
Exactly. Man, it's truth and falsehood strangely mixed.
When we get into that paper genocide.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you touched on that, there was something I was getting ready to say. Coming back on what you just demonstrated. The numbers.
Yes, sir.
When you said the 400. It was a business.
Yes.
This is how they can track it. People forget that.
Yes,
slavery was a business.
Yes, sir.
It was about commerce. It was about money. So they kept records.
Indeed. Even in that, you know what I mean? Like you said earlier, that peculiar institution. Slavery has always existed, but the means of a person enslaved to increase the income and profitability of an agricultural business is what made slavery in America that peculiar system. Because beforehand, slavery was kind of like, you know, indentured servants, maids, butlers, etc. But when you put into the aspect of no, you are working in the field to increase my crops, increase, my investment on this plot of land that I stole, you know what I mean, to trade with not only the states within America, but all over the world. Trade and commerce. This is why slavery was that peculiar institution, because now people are being used as chattel property to increase agricultural yields on crops.
That's right.
Cotton, sugar, tobacco, etc. Indigo.
That's right. More I want to touch on, just for clarity, the importance of the word recognize.
Yes, sir.
Because when you read Acts 6, now we're reading the prophet's divine warning, and we're still focusing on, like I said, the effects of the stripping of the nationality and birthright. It's not, we're going to touch on, what is a birthright.
Yes,
it's
sir.
not, so we just give context.
Yes, sir.
Where we are now, how we got here, and what must be done.
Yes, sir.
And that was what the prophet demonstrated here. The only comprehensive solution being divinely prepared by the great universal creator Allah,
yes, sir,
to redeem his people from their sinful ways. He had to come back teaching us civics, teaching us law, things that are recognized. Islam,
yes,
and
sir.
the importance of this word recognize. Can you go back? We're going to read it from the law perspective, but then can we just touch on it from Acts 6 again?
Yes, sir.
Where he stresses it?
Yes, sir. So,
read that one.
yes, sir.
Acts 6.
So it says, with us, all members must proclaim that nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black peoples, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa.
That's not. So, proclaiming your nationality is of paramount importance, because that's going to give you the ability to be what?
Recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth.
So that's a national measure and an international measure.
Yes, sir.
Islam.
Yes,
now,
sir.
now let's go to. Let's get a definition of
Yes,
the founders of, and then touch on where the prophet stresses it in his divine warning. Because, like I said, divine warning is so profound. All right, so recognize. To acknowledge the existence, validity, authority, or genuineness of. To accept as a fact, admit, accept. To acknowledge as worthy of appreciation or approval. Now, this one is key. To acknowledge the legal standing of a government, state, etc. by some formal action, as by entering into diplomatic relations. Now, we give it to you from the law, and it's simple. This is a 3rd edition Black's Law, and it just says to try to examine in order to determine the truth of a matter. How about that one? So see, it's a reason why so-called Negroes, black folks, colored people, they couldn't go to court. Somebody, a European, could say they did anything. You had no standing in court because you're not recognized. So these are some of the effects of being, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
They're very profound. You didn't have to be enslaved. You could be, again, molested. Someone could steal your property, violate you, your person, your property, and you couldn't even go to court and do anything about it. Let's think about it. This is what our ancestors lived through. So you didn't have to be enslaved in shackles. Just to live under those conditions was hell.
Yes, sir.
Somebody feel like they can do whatever they want to you, and the law, you know, you ain't got no protection under the law. So that's the importance of being recognized.
Yes, sir.
See, the prophet, he chose his words carefully.
Yes, sir.
He chose his words carefully. And so, but I want to point this out. So it says, to acknowledge the existence, validity, authority, or genuineness of. What the prophet said, according to all true divine records, there is no Negro, black, or color race attached to the human family. So they ain't going to recognize your existence.
Yes, sir.
Your validity. You ain't got no authority.
The rallying cry today, I
Come
say
on.
it all the
Come
time,
on.
so-called Black Lives Matter, we feel like our life don't matter. So you're not being recognized in your personhood
Come on.
up until 2023.
See?
So, when so-called blacks go to court now and they get lawyers and stuff, is that just for show?
No, that's 14th Amendment. That's a granted privilege.
Okay.
So that's what he addressed as, we've been living under granted privileges. So that's a 14th Amendment privilege, civil rights. So like when we wanted a discrimination suit, the basis of this 14th Amendment.
Even in that, though, too, it's like there's an ambiguity with how, you know, so-called African Americans are judged. Depending on, honestly, how much money you got, can depend on what crime you get off for.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So it's like, with that being said, Asiatics aren't judged the same across the board. Some get off, some get put in jail for something they didn't even do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's more of the latter than the former.
Yes, sir.
That's true.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but yes, I wouldn't say, like I said, not just for show, but yeah, it's a 14th Amendment. I'm glad that you said this. So we're going to go to what the prophet, why he said they were not applicable to the salvation of our people and citizens.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I really didn't want to skip none of the paragraphs, but like I said, in context, we'll get through it real quick. Yep. Yeah, because that's key. That 14th Amendment, that's exactly why he said that. Here we go. All right. Yep. So let's jump to. That was the second paragraph that we read about the state's government casting free financial balance. So let's go third, because we'll go through the whole thing, but we'll unfold it as we go. So you who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold, silver, commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. Now, this is where it gets good. It's all good, but this is a very profound point about being recognized, where nationality peace comes in, everything. I love my people and I desire their unity and mind back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. Now, I just want to stop right there real quick.
Yes, sir.
Negro, black, and colored are unconstitutional names.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The Europeans marked the Asiatics of America, who are of Moorish descent, the Moorish Americans, as Negro, blacks, colors, because they knew that those names were unconstitutional.
I was able to write us out of the Constitution, so we believe in that sense, because it's not a free national name. That name came under bondage. That name alludes to bondage. That name is tied with bondage. So if you have a people who don't have a history of being free or no history at all, you are subhuman. In a sense.
In the eyes of the law.
In the eyes of the law. So you need to have a free national name with a free national history that contributes to the advancement of civilization, which Moorish Americans do. We're not just talking about kings and queens. We're talking about bringing chemistry forth, bringing agriculture forth, bringing engineering forth, bringing mathematics forth, zoology, astronomy. The list goes on and on about what the Moors actually did. In fact, your European fathers of these sciences learned from the Moors. Roger Bacon, Thomas Aquinas, Daniel Morley, Isaac Newton, all of these people who were responsible for the European Renaissance learned from the Moors of Andalus.
Islam.
I guess it's like people don't think it gets that deep with how we're being mistreated.
Exactly.
So it's like we can question everything, but when it comes down to the name part, no one wants to question that.
Nobody. Because those that know what happened, this is the best kept secret, best kept secret. They don't want us waking up to why we're, dealing with the conditions that we're dealing with today. All because of these marks. You see, there's a problem that we're clinging to them. Our people have an emotional attachment to black. Right. Like it's some self-pride in being black. And we're gonna touch on that too, Mo, because I think black means pale.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ain't that something?
Yes, sir. The etymology.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But just how our people, again, in a delusional state. But yes, it is that deep how these marks have just distorted an individual's, a nation of people's whole historical record. And it's going to get even better because the prophet said they're trying to force it upon the civilized world. And what we said, everybody else knows. They know. They don't need those who are catching the hell. They don't need them to wake up to understand it's the marks that they're still living under and trying to get people to recognize them under these marks. It will never happen. It will never happen. And this is the very purpose that the Europeans marked them as Negro, black, color. Because again, in the United States Constitution, the word Negro, black, color is not in there. But within the state's Constitution, that's why the prophet specifically said you can cast the free national ballot under the state's government.
Yes, sir.
Because you see, we'll get into that, the Articles of Confederation and how those British colonies, once they broke away from the British monarchy by way of the Declaration of Independence, when they formulated themselves as the United States of America from those original 13 colonies, they set up their own state constitutions. And this is where the disenfranchisement took place within the state's governments. That's the state constitution, if you will. The state constitution, not the free national constitution. Because again, you're not going to find the word black, Negro, colored in the free national constitution for the United States of America or the free national constitution of the United States of America. Negro, black, colored is not saying that. It's in a state's constitution.
Reason why you got slave states and free states for so-called persons of color.
Okay.
Because the state's government allotted it for slavery to happen to enslaved Africans.
And yeah, it's so much, and we'll touch on that, and that's why they had to keep that balance of so many free states with slave states. Because again, the Constitution doesn't address Negroes, blacks, colors. But we're going to touch on Article 4 of the Articles of Confederation, as well as Act 4 of the Constitution. They're one and the same, but it speaks to citizenship, privileges, and immunities, of the rights of citizenship, if you will. So that's why the fourth Article 4 is so key.
Yes, sir.
Article 4. So, but we're going to get through this real quick so we can touch on that 14, 15 minutes. And again, probably going to use that term, deludes, again. The word, no, that was I stopped at names that are, the names and principles that are unconstitutional. Islam. And here you go. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles. Because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. Issue in this context means heredity. And let's demonstrate it just real quick, just to show when the prophet says issue, because people think we say issue, just think talking about a subject matter. Issue, no. In this context, the prophet said because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. So that means your heredity, your national descent name is going to demonstrate what is your heritage. Who are you? What nation are your foremothers and forefathers? Recognize that. You see, this Negro black colored severed that tie. It should be in there.
So
you got four,
issue.
Right? Issue, okay.
It's a bunch of different ones. Which one
you're going to find the one in the context where it says heredity specifically. They got it slipped in there somewhere. Marked. You ain't found it yet? Okay, so. It's in real law, descendants.
Okay.
All persons who have descended from a common ancestor.
Yes, sir.
That's issue.
Yes, sir.
So that's what the prophet.
It said reality law. Descendants, all persons are descended from a common ancestor.
Islam.
Offspring, progeny, descent, lineage, lineal descendants. Yes, sir.
And so what we talking about? We making that connection with the land, with the inheritance. That's why it's under what? In 4th edition, saying realty law, right?
Yes, sir.
3rd edition is in real law.
Yes,
right.
Sir.
There it
yes,
is.
Sir.
So that's again, this is why someone could take, the land grabbing, just
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Things that you will pass down through a lineage. Because it says, in this sense, the words includes not only a child or children, but all other descendants in whatever degree. And it is so construed generally in deeds, but when used in wills, it is, of course, subject to the rule of construction that the intention of the testator as ascertained from the will is to have effect, rather than the technical meaning of the language used by him, and hence issue may in such a connection be restricted to children or to descendants living at the death of the testator, wherein such an intention clearly appears.
That's all.
Islam.
Yeah, so that is.
And
that is right there.
Your lineage, your
in plain
line.
sight.
Yes, sir.
Your property, everything. So now that's the next paragraph of divine warning. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring their fathers and their mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. Before I get to the 14th, 15th Amendment, let's go back and stress that. Probably he just demonstrated, recognized 3 times.
Yes, sir.
3 times.
Yes, sir.
He said these names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Then he says, through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. So that means with all the various ethnic groups that have migrated to America, whether Europe, Asia, Africa, everybody recognized, we know, like the families of nations. Why the prophet, he used that term. Come link yourselves back with the families of nations. Islam, Negro, black, colored, you can't link yourself back to nobody. And our people don't understand that. Everybody knows who we are, but nobody wants to truly associate with us.
Yes, sir.
Don't nobody really want to, demonstrate, with people who don't know who they are.
Yes, sir.
People who dishonor their ancestors.
Yes, sir.
We demonstrated you're dishonorable people. Ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
That's someone you ain't never met can already have this perception of you just by how you identify yourself. It's
Indeed.
and we gotta unfold this more. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger. I got my can you grab that Bible right there? We gotta do this. That one right there. No, that one right there.
Yes.
No, right next to it. Yes, sir. That's the one that's the ones that got all 4 different versions.
Yes, sir.
Turn to Acts 13:1. We gotta unfold this for our people, for the family. So this is a very profound statement. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger. Nigger. Now again, delude, we demonstrated that it means deceptive, to trick, to deceive. So by us being marked as Negroes is deceptive, making you think that it's attached to a real word in the Latin language. You follow? Mm-hmm. So, Acts is
26 words.
Yeah, it's in that New Testament somewhere, right? Right. But yeah, we just gonna demonstrate this, just to unfold this for clarity, what the prophet is alluding to. Hidden in plain sight.
Alright, you said which line in Acts?
Acts 13:1, the very first one of the 13th chapter, Acts 13. So chapter 13, and watch how this gonna correlate directly to that.
Acts 13. Alright, yes sir, we in there. Now there were in the church that was Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simon that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, which had been brought up with the Herod, the Tetrarch, and Saul.
Okay, now that was King James, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 different ones: King James, Amplified, New American Standard, and New International. Okay, just read that sentence.
Yes, sir.
And all of it should be the same.
And it says, now in church assembly at Antioch there were prophets and inspired interpreters of the will and purposes of God and teachers: Barnabas, Simon, who was called Niger, black in parentheses, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, a member of the court, and Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. New American Standard says, now there were Antioch in the church that was their prophets, teachers, Barnabas and Simeon, who was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, who had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. Acts 13 for the New International. In the church of Antioch there were prophets and teachers: Barnabas, Simeon, called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, who had been brought up with Herod and Tetrarch, and Saul.
All right. We did that for a reason, Mo.
Yes, sir.
It's a message to the madness, right?
Yes, sir.
4 different versions: King James, Amplified, New American Standard, and New International. All of them said the same thing, right?
Yes,
all
sir.
of them said they were what? They were called nigger.
Yes, sir.
Didn't say they were niggas.
Yes, sir.
See? Said they were called nigger.
Yes, sir.
Prophet said the word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger. The word nigger is a Latin word.
Yes, sir.
But it's deceptive.
Yes, sir.
Because they branded us Negroes as if it has some validity.
Right.
As if it has some value.
Right.
But it's a deluded mob.
Yes, sir.
See?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It what's it saying? It ain't what you called, it's what you answer to.
Exactly.
So our people were branded Negro, and they tried to qualify Negro. You
Dress
can't
up
qualify.
all pretty and everything.
It has no value.
Not at all.
Islam
Not at
has
all.
no value. So the prophet, this divine warning is so profound.
Yes, sir.
He said it deludes in the Latin language. He could have just said the word Negro deludes to the word nigger. No, he said the word Negro deludes in the Latin language.
Yes, sir.
Because it's in your Bible.
Yes, sir.
But it said they were called nigger. It said they were nigger. Islam?
Yes, sir.
That's understanding. That comes with understanding.
Yes, sir.
You know, a lot of people are literate,
Yes, sir.
but lack comprehension.
Yes, sir.
That's why the prophet said that, though. There's a message to the madness.
Yes, sir.
So now let's go to why he focused on recognize 3 times, and we already demonstrated what recognize means. Islam, right? The validity, the authority, diplomatic relations, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said these names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government. So that means, and we may have to go there more, just to tie it in with the Honorable Marcus Garvey when they went to the League of Nations and just demonstrate why the prophet is illustrating this. Because again, that this is Marcus Garvey's.
Did we get anybody to join and hop on?
There are a few people that joined, but
Okay.
Marcus, Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. And let's go to the back. And we this is from Marcus Garvey's own words. It's a very profound statement. And Mo, if you don't mind, can you get what you call it ready? Dedicate to the sons of man.
Yes, sir.
And we'll answer that. And because it's gonna tie right into the warning.
and we're gonna close out at 3.
What time is it now?
It's 2:26.
Oh yeah. Because we can. Did you want to incorporate the remedy and Lincoln's measure?
Yeah.
Lincoln to right there. We can shut it down there because that way we at least cover 4 points.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. At least got 4 points in it. Yeah.
I would say no later than 3:30.
All right. Let's see. Okay. No, I got it down here. What's the letter? Islam. All right. So we got, this is Marcus Garvey, Philosophies and Opinions, page 406. And this is the scene, that's it. Page 406. The League of Nations, Geneva, Switzerland. In the forward step to establish colonies in Africa, the association sent a delegation to the League of Nations at Geneva in 1922 to represent to that body a petition asking for the turning over to the organization all of the late German African colonies which were taken from them during the war by black soldiers which were claimed by France and England. I sent special instructions to Sir Eric Drummond, British Secretary General of the League, explaining the object of the delegation and asking that they be seated as representatives of the Negro peoples of the world. The delegation consisting of G. O. Mark, Chairman, William Levan Sherrill, James Augustus O'Malley, and Jean Joseph Adams, Secretary and Interpreter, was received and seated unofficially at the session. Unofficially.
Yes, sir.
The petition was presented by the Persian delegation at the League on behalf of our delegates. This opened the eyes of and no doubt offended the British, French, and big colonial powers, and at a later session of the League in 1923, a rule was adopted that nationals can only bring their grievances and submit petitions for consideration through their own governments. This rule affected the petition of 1922, and it is assumed that the rule was the scheme by which the plans of the association were to be defeated at Geneva. The delegation of 1923 got no favorable consideration, and up to the present, we have not been officially notified of the final disposition of the petition, although I have been finally put away in jail, which no doubt may be interpreted as the official answer. This is a letter from Marcus Garvey addressing that incident.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you will, read was dedicated to the sons of man.
You want to just read that specific part or the whole thing?
Go and read the whole message more.
Yes,
just
sir.
we'll unfold that
And it
specific
says,
part.
dedicated to the sons of men, of Mexico, the land of our fathers, the land where the gods love to dwell, the birthplace of the ancient Egypt land, where civilization first saw the light of day. Now, since man has left his first religion, he has been suffering from a complex disease which in some way takes hold of his passions, desires. The misdirection of his brain causes him to become a living monster. He is a slave to his lower self. No scientists or doctors have been able to find anything to affect the cure until the coming of Prophet Noble Drew Ali who comes from the east, bringing the light of new day. The Moorish divine movement built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, the salvation for the nation. In the deliberation of nations, no consideration is given to a people who are not of a nation. In 1774, the Europeans of this country took the birthrights away from a people whom they forced under bondage. They were not slaves, they were bound freemen. The subsequent generations who followed them in this bondage were slaves because their minds have been subjugated to a European psychology. They were branded with the name Negro and were separated from the illustrious history of their forefathers who were the founders of the first civilization.
Ain't that something on?
The first civilization.
First civilization. But that mark separated them,
yes, sir.
right? That mark of Negro black color.
Yes,
sir. But we want to read that in relation to the brother Marcus Garvey's letter. And,
yes,
and again, we want to make, for the family, this is not to denigrate or speak ill
yes, sir.
of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who most Americans we acknowledge as the harbinger, Islam, the forerunner of the prophet.
Yes,
this is just an example of why Prophet Noble Ali had a specific task.
Yes,
Islam, because the Honorable Marcus Garvey did all that he could for the betterment and upliftment of our people.
Yes, sir.
However, in the eyes of the law, again, Negro, you ain't getting nothing done with Negro.
Not at all. Especially when they created that term in the first place to dehumanize you.
Islam.
It doesn't make sense for an oppressed people to use the oppressed term that they so-called oppressor used to oppress them in the first place.
Islam. And that's the unfortunate thing that our people are trying to qualify. And we're going to, when we finish up the warning, the prophet is going to address that specifically,
yes,
how
sir.
we're trying to force it upon the civilized world. These marks that we were branded with, that we have this emotional attachment with, and we're trying to force upon the civilized world, when the prophet specifically just said that these names, that at the records, we need to give clarity to that. Said, through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth. That's
yes,
internationally. That are recognized by said national government in which they live. So the said national government would be the United States of America.
Yes, sir.
So what other nations that the United States has diplomatic relations with in the international arena, where they recognize one another, and the individuals, the citizens of said state, country, nation, whatever, right? Those names are not recognized. If they're not recognized in America, guess what? They ain't recognized nowhere else.
Exactly.
Because they were never recognized in these other countries, in these other nations. You follow? So that's what he's saying.
Yes, sir.
That through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. So with Marcus Garvey, when we unfolded consideration, but we just need to camelback back on that
yes,
consideration,
sir.
because again, with all that Marcus Garvey did in waking our people up and galvanizing our people, I'm not gonna say it was for naught. It wasn't for naught, Islam. It was the Universal Negro Improvement Association was unsuccessful insofar as it could not remedy the stripping of the nationality.
Yes, sir.
Islam.
Yes, sir.
Because Negro is not a nationality.
No, sir.
And that's why, so when trying to unfold what the prophet demonstrated, how Negro, it deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, right? So nigger being a derogatory term, intended to be a derogatory term, it's an actual term in the Latin language.
Yes, sir.
But Declaration of Nations. When do nations deliberate? At the League of Nations. At that time, when nations get together and they speak about issues, world policy and trade, commerce, new technological, things. And we talking about 1920s, during the prophet's era, right? So that's what he means. In the deliberation of nations, the League of Nations was the parent of the United Nations, right? So no consideration is given to a people who are not of nation. Marcus Garvey, did he not just demonstrate that?
Yes, sir.
They were seated unofficially, and they were given no favorable consideration. The Persian delegation put their issues on the floor for them in 1922, but in 1923, they didn't get any. So they weren't recognized. So that's the point for bringing that up, is to demonstrate why the prophet had to demonstrate what he did.
Yes, sir.
And again, the focal point, going back to that definition of American, he said in 1774, the Europeans of this country.
Sure.
He didn't say the Americans.
Yes, sir.
Because you got to understand.
Yes, sir.
Right, who's the real American?
Yes, sir.
Islam?
Islam.
So he said the Europeans of this country took the birthrights away from a people whom they forced under bondage. See?
So in a sense, this kind of still affects Africans who come here because they still identify as black.
And that is one of the problems. That's it's a newer problem because they've gotten our other brothers and sisters, whether they be from Africa, the Caribbean. Certain people are resisting that. No, we're not black because they understand law. No, we're not black. You know, like the Dominican. You know, there are instances where you got Dominican brothers and sisters, people from the islands, right?
Yeah.
It's, no, we're not black. We Dominican.
Even the Somali community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But like on legal paper, they would put black.
Unfortunately, when they are recognized as white, that's you know it's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because they need as many people that look like us, melanated people, true olive tone people, to identify as black, because you can be misused, mistreated, or abused. Unbeknownst to them. People that know this, that's why they resist it. See? But people that they think, oh, that's just what it is. No. So when we say black is not nationality, you got people that argue, oh, yes, it is. It is nationality. Okay. It's not recognized. It's not attached to any original people.
Exactly.
We go to
the racial groups of black racial groups of Africa is truly the definition of what black means.
Federal
as a race.
Come on, the federal directive of 15 is not right, right? Where you get the classifications of Asian, American Indian, black. Everybody's associated with an original people, except black. See. And that's unbeknownst to a lot of people. And one of the most famous cases is the brother Mustafa Hefni, right? He's the Egyptian brother who he's been fighting the government ever since he came over here, like what, late 80s, mid to late 80s, and he wants to identify as black, and they keep telling him, no, you're white. And he wants to be black because he wants to get in certain programs, he wants to get in certain things, I guess, as far as his work and schooling or whatever he's trying to do. He wants to get these subsidies or whatever as black, but they keep telling him, no, you're white. It's a political status, and that's the other thing, Mo, that we didn't touch on, the political status. White and black not being, that's all they are, political status.
In the sense of white and black truly means citizen and non-citizen.
Non-citizen. That's simple.
Okay.
That's simple.
So even with my naturalization paper, I can start putting down white.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they know that's who you are because it's a political status. Yeah, but if you want to identify as black, that's your prerogative. Just know the ramifications that come with it. And that's the unfortunate thing, that our people want to push our ignorance of the law onto other people who know better, and they think it's that they don't like them or discriminate against. That's not the case. No, it's dishonorable. You have to really know what those marks intended, what they were intended for. So yeah, because we're gonna try to get through this, touch on as much as we can, but yeah, we can't go halfway through the warning. Got to go all the way through. Islam. So that consideration again. That's why we wanted to read the Marcus Garvey piece again. Not to we give honors to Marcus Garvey. It's just this was an actual event that happened, and we have to make it clear why the prophet demonstrated what he did to demonstrate that no consideration is given to a people who are not of a nation. Marcus Garvey experienced that with the UNIA, and that's one of the major differences. The prophet, even we have literature from the Moorish guide, which states the prophet specifically said we do not want to be deemed as a. Can we pull it up real quick? As a back to Africa movement. And this is very important for people to understand as Moorish Americans. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, our whole basis, our premise is that we were always here. See, we don't subscribe to, we know that there was a slave trade that took place, but no, we were always here. So that's the major difference between the Moorish science, doctrine, how would we say it? The principles. Islam. of the Moorish Science Temple of America is that no, we were always here. That's what differentiates our organization, and we'll get into that at a later date. What a religious corporation is, what really is a body politic and corporate. All nation states are body politics and corporate. It's the significance and the profoundness of what Prophet Noble Drew Ali did in establishing the Moorish Science Temple of America and the legal status that we have. So we'll touch on that at a later date, but we just want to kind of lay some framework on nationality, birthright, the effects of the stripping of the nationality, the marks being placed upon us, and now we do want to touch on the remedy and Abraham Lincoln's measure, linking it to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, because as we close out his divine warning, you're going to see that something did happen in 1865, and why Act 6 specifically says slavery lasted from 1779 to 1865, an 86-year span. So we want to point these things out, and again, we'll give greater clarity at a later date, but we definitely want to touch on it.
So it says, the Moorish Science Temple of America was founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Aside from the fact that it is a legally organized religious corporation, it is building on human needs. To this desirable end, and time legitimate means will be found to dispense charity and provide for mutual assistance of its members in times of distress, to aid in the improvement of health, and to encourage the ownership of better homes, to find employment for our members, to teach those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, such as obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. It is most earnestly hoped that the Moorish Science Temple of America will not in any way be confused with any Back to Africa movement. Such is not important insofar as American citizens of our group colonizing Africa are concerned.
That's it. That's it there. He was in any way. So this is not a Back to Africa demonstration. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwest and southwest shores of Africa Islam. However, this is ours, yes, and we all clear on that. So yes, that's the major profound difference that and when you encounter Moorish American, that's the one presiding demonstration that you're gonna get. We was always here. Yes, so again, and this is no, we all family. Yes, sir. However, no, we were here first. Yes, sir. Yes, so yes, let me get through this here. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. I got to go back and count back on that. Because when he's referencing 1774, he's referencing the Articles of Association. Because that's recognized as like the founding document of the original 13 colonies. That later became the 13 states. So it's the Articles of Association of 1774, the Articles of Confederation of 1778, the Declaration of Independence of 1776, and then the Free National Constitution of 1787. So the Declaration of Independence declared, the colonies declared their independence from, and we're going to touch on this too, Mo. It declared, right, from Great Britain. It declared the colonies independence from Britain, but this was the whole conspiratorial demonstration that went on from 1774 to 1779. So, because we're going to touch on what we demonstrated about the state constitutions. The state constitutions went into effect once they became the Articles of Confederation. It's the first time the colonies were styled as and recognized as the United States of America. 1778, the Articles of Confederation did that. So in 1779, when their laws went into effect. So that's what the prophet says slavery began from 1779. We were stripped in 1774, but slavery began legally according to those state constitutions who were once colonies, but they broke away from British rule. Now they got their own laws, but they have to be in conjunction with what? The free national laws. So it's all about how you recognize. So it's very profound, it's deep, but it's understanding what the marks did. And this is what our people still seeking a remedy for today. And the remedy is in proclaiming your nationality and us unifying as a people. So this is finna get good. All of it's good, but So the prophet said, so there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost. And it is through the above statements. I got to stop right there because this is so profound and why we have to take breaks and demonstrate and illustrate all this.
Yes, sir.
If you don't get everything that we previously demonstrated, you know what I mean? Because he said, there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost. And it is through the above statements. So everything that I just said prior to this, you got to get this.
Yeah.
So this ain't, you know,
Yes, sir.
and I appreciate the Moorish institutions that, you know, push the divine warning, because that it was impressed upon me the profoundness and the importance of understanding this. If you don't understand Moorish science, you got to understand the prophet's divine warning.
Yes, sir.
This was exemplary of his prophethood. Islam. So again, let me keep on. So it says, then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people. And this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do herein believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South. When we demonstrate this, if this backs through ages, mathematics trace themselves, thus they know.
Yes, sir. Traveled in the South and examined the conditions there.
Yes, sir. I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives a life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet. That's not. No. Every time I read that. That was a pause, Mo. Every time I read that, Mo.
No, it's
like I
serious.
said, if you don't feel that, Mo.
It's serious.
To know what our people been through. And Allah sent us a prophet.
It's serious. And like even within that, you know what I mean, never, like we said, slavery was that peculiar institution. So never in the history of our world there was a form of slavery that equipped humans into chattel property for the yielded investments of crops. Never in the history of the world where people were stripped of their nationality to the point where they didn't know how to identify with their ancestors. So you have all of these firsts and never befores in history that happened to a people. What would that people need to get back on track? A man that was divinely prepared to lead them back into the light.
Yes, sir.
What was the reason Prophet Muhammad was sent here for?
Yes, sir.
What was the reason Jesus was sent here for? What was the reason Moses was sent here for?
Yes, sir.
What were the reasons they were sent here? To get a people that has gone astray back in line.
Yes, sir. People that they were parcel of.
Part and parcel of.
Part of. Yes, sir.
To get their communities, their specific communities that was going astray back in line. Same thing with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, especially when you have a people who lost what their identity was. We still don't know who we are at mass. We still don't know. We don't even want to know. We don't even understand how history benefits us.
It's not. It's not. Mo, if we gonna touch on Lincoln.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let's get into it. Because again, right, 1865, right? Mm-hmm. And 1865 was the year that so-called Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. And what did Abraham Lincoln set up? We commonly know it as the Freedmen's Bureau. But what is it called, Mo? What is it called, Mo?
The proper style of that is commonly, again, recognized as the Freedmen's Bureau, but the proper name of it is the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands. We need to identify what a refugee is, Mo.
Yes, sir. You can look it up in the law dictionary.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you can look it up in law and pull it up in the Webster's, just for context. And this is again this goes over so many of our people's heads. And again, one of the best kept secrets, best kept sacred. This is what got Lincoln assassinated. Where a lot of people, they have their whatever their feelings are about Lincoln and what they know of, whatever his politics were, him as an individual, what he did. A lot of Ajax have different views on what Lincoln did, what he didn't do, his feelings. We care not about that. What did he do? What policy did he put in place to affect change that our people was suffering from? And this is what the caveat is in the in his Emancipation Proclamation.
It's not in the law dictionary.
It's not in law. Refugee not in the law. Okay.
So you go from refreshing to reform.
Let's see. Well, I know we got it in a pull. Do you got your that blue one? Oh, which one you in? That's the 4th, right? Oh, okay. John in here.
Put it on low battery mode.
Yeah, it's been on there.
Yeah, let's go to Webster's. It's going to speak to the reality of who those people were. These Negroes, black colors, these free Negroes, free blacks, free colors. That's an oxymoron. Said free don't go with Negro, free don't go with black, free don't go with color.
Yes,
two words, they don't mix. Refugee. Here we go. All right. A person who flees from his home or country to seek refuge elsewhere, as in a time of war, political or religious persecution. Islam? Mm-hmm. So that's what a refugee is. Now, let's point this out since, like I said, and again, these are terms that I'm not surprised that they're not in there. Well, could you just demonstrate the title of that? And
nationality and statelessness in the international law of refugee status by Eric Frick.
Now, though this is an international law piece, it addresses the situation after World War II, as in the case of Israel.
Yes, sir.
It's not how they had a form of Israel and the definition, the territory. They didn't have land, this and that. Well, we don't have to go into all that.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter, let's just put this on the record because it does relate to us as Moorish Americans and our point of origin.
Yes, sir.
Because we do want to, before we close out, we need to give chapter 47.
Yes, sir.
And get a meets and bounds of the vast estate. Because you got to have a point of origin and a destination. It's not a from and a to, and the prophet laid all that out in chapter 47.
Yes,
so before it was Israel, it was always the land of Canaan.
Yes, sir.
Ancient Babylon, various lands were there pre-Israel.
Yes, sir.
Islam. So we just want to make that as a fact.
Yes, sir.
You see what I'm saying?
Indeed.
So let's just say that and put that on the record. All right. So refugee, and that this book kind of references in international law measures that were taken based upon what happened in World War II.
Yes, sir.
So you had a lot of refugees from various Eastern European countries, that people that were being displaced because of World War II.
Yes, sir.
And why they had to have these different conventions and so on and so on.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Now, you take that same framework, because the law applies across the board.
Yes,
It's
sir.
still an international measure.
Yes, sir.
The Americans, the Europeans of America, didn't want to address this because this is definitely relative to the condition of the Asiatics of America. The Moors. The
Yes,
Moorish
sir.
Americans. It's not?
Yes, sir.
See? They came and occupied, took land, people have been forced under bondage, stripped of their nationality, which again, they have no international protection because they don't even have the state's protection if they're being deemed Negro, black, colored. So if they're not proclaiming their free national name and religion, they're not being recognized. Islam?
Yes,
So
sir.
we covered all of that, right? Lincoln, in his wisdom, when he established this bureau, after the passage of the 13th Amendment, and again, we don't have to go into this too much, but the prophet doesn't have to mention the 13th Amendment because, again, the unsaid is near the truth than the said. So he said with slavery in 1865, common knowledge is, right, the 13th Amendment passed in 1865.
Yes.
Whether you got certain Moors that push about the 13th Amendment with 20 sections or the 13th Amendment with 2 sections.
Yes, sir.
Matters not. We know which one that's on the books. The 13.2, yes, a 1320 was proposed.
Yes,
It
sir.
was proposed. Fact of the matter is, prophet didn't mention 13th Amendment because the unsaid is near the truth than the said.
Yes,
He
sir.
said slavery in 1865. But something else happened in 1865 that was just as profound. After the abolishment of slavery, Lincoln, being Lincoln, again, he established the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Land. Because everyone was not enslaved. So that's why freedmen would be the second issue,
Yes, sir.
or the second responsibility of the Bureau.
Yes, sir.
To deal with the freedmen, who these newly freed people would be.
Mm.
But the first issue is to deal with all these who? Refugees. Islam?
Islam.
Oh, we got to make that clear.
Islam.
The Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands. Everybody was not enslaved.
Yes, sir.
They ain't going by their free national name. Lincoln knew who the Moors were. Islam?
Islam.
He defended them all, right?
Yes, sir.
William versus Dungy versus Spencer, right?
Yes, sir.
William Dungy,
Yes, sir.
right? He
Indeed.
represented and defended the Moors. So Lincoln knew who the Moors were, but we need to read that caveat in the preamble of the Emancipation Proclamation, where it says the executive. Can we? Mo, we got. I got it right here. Mo. We just read this for the family, just so they get it. No, I'm looking for it. Well, I can't find it. But yeah, refugee. We just want to make that plain. Refugee. A person who flees from his home or country, not somebody else's home, from his home or country. So in order to be deemed a refugee, you had to have a home.
Yes, sir.
You had to have a country you belong to.
Yes, sir.
To be in refugee status, but you're fleeing because of what? War, religious persecution, Islam, as in a time of war, political or religious persecution, etc. Lincoln was very well aware of that.
Yes, sir.
All those in government were very well aware of that. That's why when he established the so-called Freedmen's Bureau, people just know it as it's always been promoted as just the Freedmen's Bureau. Everybody didn't know it was the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned because that's the proper name for it.
Yes, sir.
See, so very vitally important. Our people are still in refugee status to this day. They are operating under, as the prophet stated in his warning, divine warning, granted privilege. The 14th Amendment, they think that they're citizens by way of the 14th Amendment, and they think that they got voting rights by way of the 15th Amendment. No. The prophet said there's no need for them. Islam? So again, Justice Benjamin Curtis, his dissenting opinion, and Justice McLean's dissenting opinion in the Dred Scott case, everyone must read and study what they unfolded in their dissenting opinions. Though the majority opinion was the Negro has no rights that the white man is bound to respect. Justice Benjamin Curtis and Justice McLean, their dissenting opinions have to be read because, again, they unfolded and let the cat out the bag.
Yes, sir.
So, it was something else we want to touch on more as related to Lincoln. I know what it is, man.
You better Malunga.
Oh yeah, you're right. His identity, his ethnic. Oh, we got the measure, the caricature of him.
Yes, sir.
1862, how Lincoln was viewed by his peers.
Mm-hmm.
They knew he was of Moorish descent. A known fact.
Yes,
But it's something else we want to touch on as related to not just the emancipation, but that the Bureau is of utmost importance. 1865, that's why the prophet said slavery ended in 1865. Again, 13th Amendment, that's a given, but it was the Bureau of Refugees and Freedmen. And then we get into we don't really have to go into the finance and everything with Freedmen's Bank, because people are more familiar with what happened, the money that was supposed to be allocated to the Freedmen's Bank and all this, the theft of that, how the Reconstruction, but the whole demonstration, what got Lincoln assassinated was without saying it, again, unsaid is near truth than said. Let's put it in. Suppress any efforts that they may make for their actual freedom. The actual freedom came in proclaiming your nationality. That was the actual freedom. And it had always been on the books. Islam? It had always been on the books. That's what bought the very first Naturalization Act, the Sundry Free Moors Act of 1790 was the precursor to the Naturalization Act even being implemented, because the Europeans, by putting the marks on the Asiatics of America who are of Moorish descent, if everyone proclaimed their nationality, they couldn't get away with what they got away with. They needed the marks to remain. Islam. So when the Sundry Free Moors, sundry simply means various. So when we say the Sundry Free Moors Act, it's basically saying various free Moors, 8 Moors, if I'm if I'm correct, right? Four brothers and 4 sisters.
Yeah.
They went and they petitioned the South Carolina House of Representatives to be recognized as citizens of an emperor in allegiance with the United States of America. They were Moroccan citizens. They were citizens who invoked a treaty that was recognized by the United States of America, Islam, and they weren't granted or given the political status of free white persons. They just had to proclaim that they were Moors.
Yes, sir.
It was already theirs.
Yes,
they had to put on the record that they was Moors. So we only bring this up because Lincoln didn't do anything new. This was a known demonstration.
Yes, sir.
You got to put on the record who you are.
That's it.
Islam. It was just that simple. So in 1865, that's why prophet said these names lasted until 1865.
But this is a new era of
Time
time
now.
now.
Islam.
And all men must proclaim their free national name.
So everything Camelback's, all of the prophets' literature and the information, it's not redundant. It's not redundant. It's repetitive.
Yes.
And can we read that more? Demanding hours.
Right.
That term we want to use, inculcated.
Yes, sir.
Because again, we let the prophet speak. Islam.
I think you said we had about 5% on the phone.
Okay, Islam. We got to do more. We just want to give a little framework of what our charge is as it relates to being Moorish Americans and those other Moorish Science Temple of America.
Yes,
and
sir.
our charge in teaching our people the nationality of divine creed. Islam.
That's what it is. Demanding ours, the idea inculcated in the purposes of the Moorish Science Temple of America is to have everything that belongs to us as a nation that has become a part of another nation, just the same as all other European groups are doing. We must have the history of our forefathers taught to our children. We have ceased to calculate our history from the landing of the first 20 or the close of the Civil War, while all the records of the tombs in the old world are proclaiming our glory to the nations. We have come now demanding that we've been given credit for the great work done in the past for our ancestors. We are not asking us to give these records to the world for us, but we demand that such records be broadcasted to the four winds by us and for us. A pride that goes with the knowledge of great deeds will serve to cause our posterity to take heart and look into the vast future with the hope eternal. Such can never be done except they be taught who they are and where they are from. Yes, we are demanding that these things be done, and we know that it will require some time before we have created that consciousness in others of our group to assert themselves likewise. But that day is coming when such will be the case.
Islam. Can you do that sentence one more, inculcated, so I can get
Yes,
this
sir.
definition?
The idea inculcated in the purposes of the Moorish Science Temple of America is to have everything that belongs to us as a nation that has become a part of another nation, just the same as all other European groups are doing.
Islam. So in context, when you understand that properly, the prophet is saying the idea inculcated. And inculcate means to impress upon the mind by frequent repetition or persistent urging. So the prophet is trying to get us to understand something was taken away from us.
Yes, sir.
That we must get back. Islam,
Yes, sir.
that we must get back just as all other nations are doing for themselves.
Yes, sir.
So it was always a do for self measure, but it was something that was taken from us that other people didn't have taken from them.
Yes, sir.
Islam. So we just want to lay that framework, and so it's not redundant.
Yes, sir.
It's repetitive.
Repetitive.
And like I said, to impress upon the mind by frequent repetition or persistent urging.
Yes, sir.
Islam. So
Yes,
that's why ones will hear Moorish Americans always speak about nationality,
Yes, sir.
birthright. Islam.
Yes, sir.
So,
Indeed.
we have more to come. Islam.
More to come.
Yes,
Truly.
sir.
This
Yes, sir.
is literally just the tip of the iceberg, because we have to get into understanding why nationality is important, why us not having one in mass is affecting us, because then once we get you to understand that, we can get into putting all the other pieces of the history and bounding it and making it a part of our whole, because then it's already known. It's already recognized what the Moors have done for civilization. But the Moors have to forecast that into the four winds for us and by us, for it to be prevalent upon the minds of all of the citizens of the world. It has to be pressed upon by us. Can't nobody press upon our history for us. It doesn't make sense.
Islam.
Only a more scientist can give you more science.
Islam. In that order.
So with that being said, my brother,
Islam.
appreciate y'all for joining us on this live.